There's no grabbing.
Are you talking about Lisa?
Yeah, Lisa.
Well, that's a really hard one because you know how I was talking about the speaking, the speaking and the typing, but I'm also not watching whether I'm enlightened or not. That sounds really lame. I know a lot of us are Tony's fans, and Tony's so like, when there's not a me here, that's it, it's gone, and that's really always been an abstract for me. I'm really not watching myself as just what's happening, and I can't tell if I'm enlightened or not enlightened, or grabbing or not grabbing. I couldn't even distinguish between. So, who would be watching that? But that's really boring. I wish I could sit here and be like, I'm enlightened. So it never happens, there's never grabbing. I don't really know anymore. If the memories pop up, the memories say there seems to be an absence of suffering, but fuck it, I don't know. It's just words.
Would you tell yourself the story of how you came to this point?
Sorry?
Do you still at times tell yourself
the
story?
Oh, tell myself? No. Only when people ask it. It's really distant now. Like really.
So you don't see it in terms of time or memory?
No, I really am not looking at myself in time. But when people ask it in Paris recently, oh no, maybe that was a long time ago. I was in Paris and I hadn't told the story for so long and they were so insistent and I was like, okay, and it happened for like 20 minutes and I was like, ah, and it was making me chuckle. It's so
separate from you.
It's just so, yeah. But that happens with things in short term as well, like after events and things. And this is really mean. Felicia is so cute. But when I leave her, she's absolutely gone. That's so mean. Like I can't. It's like she's just gone. And then when I see her again, I'm like, good guys, tea. So as I go away from her, I have to leave her in certain places. And I just was in India for 3 weeks, and when she'd gone, she'd gone. And that's exactly what that liberation story feels like. It's just gone. It seems to be in a story that in that one particular moment, a lot of that, this energy that was completely obsessed with itself fell away. And it seems prior to that there was a dissolving in some way. But then now that story's so abstract. When I think of it, I think of bananas more than anything. I was eating bananas, banana fritters, and I'm like, banana fritters.
For me, there's such a... Oh, sorry,
laughing.
There's a real sense of that now because there was such a tightness with family and children and worry and angst, in the story. And so this message for me that that there's a real sense of that now, and they're not, because you have them in a car crash or in my case, a motorbike crash or something in Europe. Son and husband as well. And in your mind, you've got no idea. So now for me, this message of I've heard it and I'm letting go and the dissolving of that. But is there anything out there? Is there anyone out there? I have no idea. I can't picture them in anywhere or doing anything. And there's such relief in that.
Yeah.
There is so, when they come into when I say my grandchildren, my children, not anyone, there's a real letting go, just because the understanding of all this is that energy, and it is that, which I personally call God, and some people's very good energy, doesn't matter. Then, if they are that, then there's a real complete letting letting go, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Where this is,
And then you begin to truly love them.
yeah.
Like, not that you didn't truly love them before.
No, it was needy before.
Yeah.
It was, you are this to me, you are my child.
Because some people hear this message and then they think there's a deadness. Like, but it's actually the opposite. It's like when I'm with Khaleesi and I'm bike riding with her or whatever we do together, or my lover or whoever it is, or my mama, it's not that I'm really there, as in a story of me, but it's like we're really there. When I say we, you were saying, but I'm 100% with my mum, but that's odd because who's with her, but it's not like I'm sitting there thinking you've got to be like this or you've got to do this or it's just so she's like oh, and I'm like oh, particularly with my mum.
It's the role, isn't it? Roles, but there's no one who can play that or not play that, or
And Lisa, the body plays a role with the mother character, and she plays a role with the Khaleesi character, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's just not who you are. That's just action happening, and you can't even see that role. It's only the others that see it, or when the body's describing it that it's seen.
So, like at the moment, this is definitely still here.
Oh, you're trying to convince me you're not enlightened, are you?
Yeah. Maybe that'll turn around in a minute. You're like one of the corners. Yeah, I know we all are. It's because there really is a seeing of the plane of the role. There's a real seeing of the playing role with my mum or and you play a role, you put a hat on. So I haven't heard you say this before. So when the me is falling away, there's no sense of seeing the body mind.
No, but there isn't. Because you can't. You can only know it in words and description. So when somebody asks me about the role of Lisa, I might words might come out. Oh yes, I'm a very caring daughter and loving daughter. And then Mum's like, oh, she's wrong. She's a right shit. She always thinks of herself, whatever it is. But that's only in words, and then that's gone. When I'm with Mother, there's I can't see the role that's being played. I can maybe she comes back with whatever, and then in that moment she's described the Lisa role as something, and then it's gone, and it's just action happening. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, because there definitely needs to be senses of that, that it's.
The person's always trying to look at itself and describe itself. This is what I'm looking like now. It's kind of like a kid's game. It's very cute. Or this is what I'm being like now.
Yeah, because you do see it, and then.
But you see it in imagination. You see Dee's role in imagination, because how could you see it? You're only seeing it in thoughts and descriptions, that's not necessarily a problem. Still, thoughts and descriptions come here when Mum says it, or someone says, "How are you like with your mum?" And I'm very caring, lovely daughter, always very generous. But you can't see it in the moment.
But I think that's what's getting a bit scary about all this, because
it's free to be. The body's free to be whatever it is.
Yeah, and I really know absolutely that there's nothing you do, but there's a sense of there's always been in the story a whole sense of like the caring, the kind,
the giver. Yeah.
And now it does seem to be going the other way. All sorts of things are like volcanoes erupting, and there's a real trying to not let that out.
Yeah.
But then sometimes it comes out.
Yeah.
And it's like.
But what will also happen is the person that's describing itself will begin to dissolve. So then you can be an arsehole. And
don't worry about it.
Yeah. You'll be like, you won't really notice. You're like.
So I can be that and not even care that I'm that.
You won't notice really. You won't even really notice. It will only be in the description to others. You'll just be like, oh! You also won't notice that you're being a good person either, and being really nice to the mother. It always is a very great surprise when my mother describes me.
Great surprising. I know there's no good or bad, but great surprising. It's just
I have no idea that's what she's seeing.
Oh, right.
I have no idea what Lisa's doing. It's just happening.
Oh, I see what you mean. That you get to see the.
And then she'll
body
describe,
language,
she'll describe Lisa, and I'm like, really? Wow, I did that. or whatever she's saying to me recently. And we're very obsessed with who we are and who others are. What was she saying to me recently? I forget.
Is it a bit like being drunk? You don't know what you're doing.
There is a sense of that, yes.
But how do you feel if people are unkind to you?
Well, it's not the most pleasurable thing, but I don't really notice it. The body's reacting. Like sometimes in talks, I really get. That's the worst place I think it is in talks, when people are really angry. And the body reacts. Like the body sometimes gets sweaty or dum, 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 dum. Really a lady shouting at me in India recently. And but then it's gone. And then she comes up and we're like, oh. That's just the way she was. Angry. And it's most probably justified. Lisa's most probably an arse, as well as a nice person. We're all of it. The body's always changing depending on the person that's describing it.
So when that happens, do you just feel, your body just feels whatever that's feeling?
Yeah,
It's
it does tend to react when someone's really shouting at you. The heart beats faster, sweat comes sometimes.
But you're not aware of any kind of thoughts coming in that you're trying to analyse it, what happened and why.
And it's not her fault or my fault, or it's just happening. It can sometimes be scary when, like, there's fear when someone's really shouting at you. It's just as it is. And it couldn't be any other way. And then when that stops, then that stops. It's the same when a dog's barking at you or a cow. Because I've just come from India, we had a cow chasing. I always had cow chasing in India. Not me chasing them, them chasing me. Always
Can we chase a cow together? A cow actually chased you?
Yeah, always happens because they're everywhere.
Oh, right.
And there was these cows being hit by the. He was trying to hit them off the rubbish. They like the rubbish, and then they like to eat the rubbish. And so the guy was trying to hit them off the rubbish, and I'm just stood at the edge of the rubbish. So they all just came charging at me, and this is really awful what Lisa Bonnie did. I'm sorry, I should think what I did. So I'm with this older gentleman who's like in his, I don't know how old he is, like late 70s.
Pushed him in.
No, I ran away and left him there.
Could have been worse.
There was 3 of us young people, and we just ran away. And when I turned back, he stood there, and all these cows were charging at him. And afterwards, they just ran around him. But afterwards, my one friend said that was incredibly brave, Jock. And Jock said, well, actually it wasn't. It's just the thought didn't come to move. Because he's quite slow. So by the time he'd actually registered cows charging, he was still stood there. And all the people around were like, he's so brave. And yeah. He's just like, oh. We all left him. It was a very sweet time. It always happens in India. There's not a cow chasing, it's not India.
So form can not be perceived without commentary.
Yeah.
That also applies to
Oneness. Or not two-ness, maybe.
so talking about parents and stuff. So if you see yourself as a you have a commentary. I have a commentary about myself as a good son, as a bad son, as an inadequate son,
Yeah.
all these different.
Yeah.
So
and then of what they are as well, because when you're inadequate,
Yeah.
they're a perpetrator or
yeah.
so they're always the opposite role to what you are, and it only ever exists in commentary. So there's not actually a bad person out there or perpetrator out there.
No. So I'm creating an object.
Yeah, it's not even quite you, but in the it's hard to explain that, but in that there's two people being played in thoughts, which have become energetical. It really feels.
To the body?
What, the thoughts?
Yeah.
I don't know where or how thoughts arise. It seems logical in the brain, but that's a thought. I mean, sometimes I used to play the game of trying to find where the thought arose, and I found that I couldn't decide. I got to the point where I couldn't even decide if it arose, if it was closer to the tree or closer to my head. So if there was a tree out there, I couldn't find a different place. Like, I couldn't find where it came. Like, could be. Like, I couldn't find the distance of where they're coming from. Where they're actually. It's weird thoughts, aren't they?
I was just thinking about commentaries.
But what tends to happen is it becomes energetical, and when you're commenting about the other person, it almost feels like it goes out on them. Like there is an entity there that's all these words. It becomes like they are whatever they're bad or good, or and I am. Yeah.
And that's the crazy thing, because it changes then, doesn't it? It changes like
The roles are always
moments,
changing, isn't it?
or in half an hour, the next day, it's roles are just
And all roles are always based on comparison. So what else? What other objects is telling stories about? So you change the comparison, and then the role changes.
And then the object changes.
See if anyone has any questions.